Welcome to the ThunderCast, your martial athletics podcast produced by the fans, for the fans, with your hosts, Russ Livingood and KD Hudnall. We're bringing you the thundering word on the thundering herd each and every week, so keep it right here. The ThunderCast is on the loose. Thanks for downloading another episode of the ThunderCast. Twitter has apparently survived, so you can follow us on Twitter at ThunderCast_pod. That's a big sigh of relief for me anyway. I really was not looking forward to potentially having to intricately learn another social media outlet, but hey, you got to do what you got to do. Also, head over to Facebook, give us a like at the ThunderCast page over there, and please head over to YouTube and subscribe to the ThunderCast YouTube channel. We're really trying to grow that audience over there because we really enjoy putting out these video podcasts. I don't remember what it was in the last episode, Russ, that you did, but I said for the folks that were watching, you had some gesture or something, stick your tongue out or something.
Stuck my tongue out and went.
And it was just kind of funny. So if you're not watching these in the video format, you're really kind of missing out on some comedic versions there. That's pretty awesome. So
well, tell them what they're missing out on right now.
Oh yeah, tonight okay, so this is not like an every week thing, but Russ is showcasing it now. So if you're not watching, you need to go over and click the link and check out the video podcast, because we've got a little bit of a clothing sponsor for this week's episode. So some local flair on two fronts, a Marshall Camden Park mashup tee from a seller on Facebook called Part of This Complete Breakfast?
Yeah, and you can find it on their Threadless account. Is the best Threadless page. It's Part of This Complete Breakfast.threadless.com.
Yeah.
This is a Marshall guy. He no longer lives in the area. He just moved away for work, but you've probably seen a couple of his shirts around here. Is like, man, those are badass,
Yeah.
And we happen to know someone that had these, and you've had a couple over the years. Yeah. But this is a great shirt. It's looks like the Camden Park clown, but it's Marco for those of you that are not on there. And it says games, tailgating, fun for all, Herd Nation Park. Looks just like the Camden Park sign, but it's not. So there's no copyright laws there. But yeah, head over to Part of This Complete Breakfast.threadless.com, put in an order. They've got an entire section of Marshall related gear.
Yeah, and some just like old school vintage Huntington type stuff. There's some cool stuff on there. I own several of the shirts from there, and including I have that one, and I'd worn it out already. I had it in the black version of the t-shirt, same design, and I just wore it out because it was so awesome. I also have, what is it? Oh, I used to work. Remember back in the day, I used to work at the old Rebels and Redcoats restaurant after it became just a bar. And there was he sells a t-shirt that has the sign out front, the logo, from Rebels and Redcoats. So I bought one of those just for an old throwback, but I guarantee if you peruse through the store, you'll be like, man, this is awesome. This is kind of taking me back. So highly recommend that you go over. Thanks to part of this complete breakfast.threadless.com for sponsoring the freaking wardrobe this week. That's just awesome. Hopefully we can shove some customers over that way, at least to look at the collection. But look, we've got a big recap to get to. Georgia Southern, and what a game that one was. We'll get into all that. We've got those 5 things that we'll talk about. It's a split content episode this week because it's a holiday weekend or a holiday week. And, we just don't want to churn out another 3-hour episode, but we're getting down to the nitty gritty and we got a lot to talk about. So before we get into all of it, let's get a word from our sponsor at 304carwreck.com. If you've been injured in a car wreck, visit 304carwreck.com on the web or on Facebook. What happens when an Ohio driver crashes into a West Virginia driver in Kentucky? That can be a mess. But if you can dream it up, Jason and Matt have probably been there, done that, and gotten their clients paid. Don't fight the insurance companies alone. Contact Jason and Matt at 304carwreck.com. Okay, Russ, it is the beginning of a very busy week, what with the holiday Thanksgiving's fastly approaching. We've got a football game at the end of the week. We've got some basketball games throughout the week. We've got a lot going on. We've got soccer also this week. It's going to be a very heavy around the herd in a couple days, which is why another reason we're splitting content this week. But look, let's start this episode off like we always start every episode off with 5 things that every herd fan needs to know.
Absolutely. And just like every week, these are brought to you by Ignite Link, the Tri-State's premier IT management team. Number 1, we've talked about the Thunder Trust on here. We've talked about NIL on here. Got a couple new NIL opportunities that's popped up over the last week or so. One is the Herd Exchange. The other is the Brander Group, BRANDR. Let's talk about the Herd Exchange first.
Okay.
There's a portal, I guess you could say, where you can get access to that. You have to get permission to access that. So you as an individual, you as a company, a group, whatever, you fill out the form and they will get back to you and say you've been approved, set your login, your password. You get on there and you have access to the athletes from various different martial athletics programs that have signed up for this. You can message them, they can message you, try to work out a deal directly to do some NIL opportunities.
Yeah, so, it's pretty cool. It's a pretty big database. So I don't know if it's every herd athlete or if they kind of had to opt in, like, do you want to be a part of it or not? But I was perusing because we, of course, signed up. We wanted to be part of it and at least check it out and see if it was something that we felt like was good for not just us, but good for our athletes, honestly.
Sure.
So I was pretty surprised to see that I think there was like over 400 martial athletes. I think it's a pretty open type forum where you can approach them with a deal, a price point, and what you would like to get done. They can approach you, say, hey, I'd like to be a part of it, whatever. But we'll see how it goes moving forward, but it's just another avenue just outside of the Thunder Trust, which most folks are probably most familiar with, which is Marshall's. I don't want to call it official NIL organization, but it's the one that's like most locally tied, I would feel comfortable saying.
That's a good description. Yeah.
Yeah. It's we've got 3 NIL collective type things now. I mean, I guess the Thunder Trust is the only collective technically, but opportunities, venues, vehicles, whatever you want to call it. But the Herd Exchange is pretty cool. I would recommend you at least sign up and see if you can gain access, get approved to gain access to see if it's good for you or your business, and see if you can work something out. But nonetheless, these opportunities are cool.
Secondly, the Brander Group. This allows, as I understand it, according to the article, Marshall has given them licensing for their logos and everything. And that means that through the Brander Group, athletes can appear with those logos, those university logos, on merchandise, other different things. And that leads to, specifically, as you mentioned earlier in that article, jerseys. For athletes. I think all of us have clamored for those over the years, hopefully accurate jerseys, but that is one thing, especially having the logos on there. It should look a lot more official than back in the day when I went to a screen printer and just had some laminate put over, a jersey number that looked nothing like Marshall's jerseys, So I think it's pretty cool. And no matter what, we're showing that as a university, we're not passing up these opportunities. NIL's here, it's not going away, and we need to be a part of it and embrace it and do everything we can to make it beneficial for our athletes, which is only going to help our recruiting. And we're not just talking football and basketball here. We're talking every single sport. Just like you mentioned, you can get on there if you want to go have one of our very cool softball players that we've just talked about them as a group, how it's how they're so fun and everything. Go throw some NIL money at the softball players and jazz up your company with what they do.
I tell you what, the opportunity or the potential opportunity to buy player specific Marshall jerseys is going to be a big turn on to a lot of fans. Now they have to be done right. Like you said, you can't give me a obvious knockoff. It's going to have to be pretty top tier in order for a lot of fans to want to spend that money. Otherwise, why would they? But thinking football, baseball, basketball, women's sports, Olympic sports, any jersey that you want potentially as a possibility. I don't know that it will be. I'm just saying they said it in the article, not me. We're not speculating on this. It says it in the article, which, by the way, is on Herd Zone. It just sounds like something that Marshall should have been able to do years ago in their own right. And I know NIL is a thing now that's its own animal, but I've long thought we should be able to walk into the Cam Henderson Center and get a Hal Greer Marshall jersey, or or a J.R. Van Hoos Marshall jersey. And the same with the fan store over at the Joan. You should be able to walk in there on game day and get a Chad Pennington or a Troy Brown or whoever the hell you want from way back when. If you want to rock a Chris Parker jersey, you should be able to do that. And maybe moving forward, we'll be able to get some infrastructure in place to where that makes sense for Marshall to do and for to be available for the fan base. But hey, any step's a good step right now.
That's right. We also need to talk about number 2, the new Twitter page for men's basketball. It's now at herd_MBB. And the reasoning for that, because when they came out, everyone kind of looked and said, wait, is this legit? Why are we doing this? And everyone was questioning, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? Well, their hand was a little bit forced. Ryan Crisp of the Big Green put out a tweet answering directly, everyone that had asked, and they'd been locked out of it. They can tweet through, I guess, TweetDeck or whatever, but some of the features they could not do. They could not change the profile taglines, and it still showed us a member of Conference USA. And man, we would have done anything to get away from Judy and Conference USA, including having to abandon a popular Twitter handle. Yeah. So it's not ideal, but what are you going to do? So just want to put that out there. All of you who follow the Herd basketball team on Twitter, make sure that you follow. I would not delete the old one. They're just going to not tweet from it. But if they ever get it back, there's no need to go back and try to follow it again. Just follow the new one. You'll be following both, and you'll not miss out on anything coming from Herd basketball.
Yeah, I think it was just a bad timing, right? With all the transition going on with Twitter, they couldn't get any, help from Twitter in reactivating or gaining access to that account. And maybe they will once some things get stabilized with that company and the platform, then maybe they will be able to get some help from customer service or whatever, the engineer, whatever the heck it takes. But that's a bummer. That's 16, almost 17,000 followers. It was a verified account, and now they're starting over from scratch, at least from the time being. But yeah, it sounds like a bad bet, but man, I would trade 16,200 of my 16,500 or 700 followers to get away from Conference USA too.
Really though. Really. I mean,
really
we're not joking, Judy, I know you're listening. We hate you. All right, number 3, got some really cool ticket promos. Want to go over them, then KD can chime in as well. First, let's talk about men's basketball. It's a mini plan. It's called the MAC Pack, MAC. Select 2 home games against a MAC opponent at a price point above. 1 MAC Pack will get you 1 ticket to each game. Lower level chairbacks, $70. Lower level bleachers, $50. Upper level chairbacks, $20. So again, select 2 of those, and you've got November the 30th at 7 p.m., the Akron Zips. December the 3rd at 5 p.m., the Ohio Bobcats, and December 17th at 3:30 p.m., the Toledo Rockets. So you want to go to one of those games, 2 of those games, get them a lot cheaper, and you can do that at the ticket office. Just select the MAC Pack. Next one is kind of football, basketball, both. If you purchase to this Saturday's game a football sideline ticket at the $30 price point, you will receive a free ticket to the basketball game that night. Again, we're playing at noon on Saturday in football, and I believe it's 7 p.m. is when the basketball game is at the camp. And that'll be in the upper level free ticket. If you're going to be in town, if you already live in town, plan on going to both, you're not a season ticket holder, take advantage of that because that'll save you some coin. And again, we're going to pack the Cam and pack the Joan.
Yeah, that's really cool. I want to chime in on those before you go any farther.
Okay.
I mean, not a lot of folks get super excited. In fact, some get turned off about continually playing MAC teams, and I get it. It's the same old folks, but I get it. I get it. But at least Marshall's like, hey, we understand too, so we're going to try to give you a little bit of break if you'll come check out both games. That's cool. You can't hate on that, right? I mean,
right.
We're doing what we got to do right now. We've talked about the basketball schedule and how underwhelming it is, really. So they're trying to give back a little to the herd fan. Like, hey, come pack the Cam. These guys they're starting to click, right? We talked about it in the last Around the Herd. He had to sum up 3 games. Then last night there was a big scoring effort. I think Obina ended up with a double-double. Tavion was flirting with a triple-double. I don't think it came to fruition for him, but still, Marshall is really starting to click here a little bit. So there's a lot to be excited about. Looks like a high-energy team. Get out there and take advantage of that. And God knows you're going to go to the football game. You should. It's senior day. It's an early kick. Yeah, that's not ideal, but still, you're going to go to the game. Marshall's going to be staring down the barrel of moving to 8-4. I mean, in a last third of the season that was 5 weeks ago was pretty doom and gloom. And now look where we're at. So you got every reason to get your butt out there and go. Now all you got to do is catch a little late lunch, early dinner, and head to the camp. I mean, geez, they're really making it a Saturday to remember there next Saturday.
Yeah. Final ticket promo of this thing for the 5 things that we're going to talk about is it's Football Youth Day. All members of a youth league team, players and coaches receive a free ticket to the game. Family and friends can purchase a ticket to the game at Herd Tickets or whatever. It got cut off here on the promo photo, but just call the box office, get online, go to the box office. You can do that through Herd Zone. You can do it through the Herd Zone app, which we've been trying to tell everybody to download. So get on there. If you can't figure out where it is, give them a call in the office and just say, want to get some tickets for Youth Day.
Yeah, generally they make that really easy. Like if it's a promo code or something like that, it's not going to be something crazy. It would just be like youth,
Yeah, they weren't listed on the photos on here, and I don't want to spend 3 or 4 minutes looking around for them, but you should easily be able to find them. But if you can't, just call a representative, 1-800-THE-HERD. They'll take care of you.
They'll hook you up for sure.
Number 4, Grant Traylor is named Associate Athletic Director of Communications. Kind of taking over what Chuck did. Chuck McGill, for those who don't know who Chuck Chill is. And
if you don't know, now you know.
Now you know. So I think that from what I understand, there's some going to be some new duties in there. There was a slight restructuring after Chuck had left. That guy wore a lot of hats, man. So but Grant has been around this program for a long time. Everyone is going to know who he is. He's done an amazing job with the local press. So I think it was 15 years, maybe.
I think that's what he said. Yeah,
that he's been doing this. So pretty seamless. He's already a familiar face to just about everybody, especially in and around the athletic department. They've been seeing him for a long time. So that will be our new director of communications.
Yeah, we mentioned this just real quick in passing on the second episode of the week last week because it had broken that day, I think.
Yeah.
And we needed to be able to talk about it a little bit more and give it it's just time to discuss here. And this is a pretty solid move, I would imagine. Grant has been, like you said, in and around the area for a long time. ridiculously familiar with martial athletics and the movers and shakers in those circles. So this is about as seamless as you could imagine. It's I wonder how he will handle answering the questions instead of asking the questions. It's a little bit of a different role for him, but I am sure he will thrive in the role. And, you were right about Chuck having to wear so many hats. And we just see this continual morphing of the athletic department under Christian Spears as, responsibilities get reallocated and things just seem to be kind of evened out a little bit more across more folks, which, man, I don't know how Chuck did it for so long. I mean, geez, there's only so many hours in a day, and
he used them all.
He used every damn one of them. That's for sure. Yeah. So the equally as happy for him to be able to take a little bit of a breath and step back and, start that next chapter when that rolls around. We've talked about that a little bit. We're not breaking any news here, but we're just happy for him, and we're happy for the athletic department too, to get things going in a new, hopefully more efficient direction.
Yeah. And congratulations to Grant. Again, you said it's probably going to be pretty seamless. All right, number 5. This would normally be something we're going to talk about in Around the Herd, but it's kind of too big to talk about, and we don't have an Around the Herd for this show. It'll be on the one in a day, maybe 2 days. So men's soccer is going to the Sweet 16. Just happened earlier today. Beat number 4 Virginia at home, obviously. Virginia's home, not ours. And ended in a 1-1 tie. And then the new rules that just went in place, they had 2 10-minute over or extra time periods. Was still a 1-1 tie after that. Went to place kicks. Marshall hit all 5 of theirs. The first one, Ollie Simla, scored, and then immediately walked back and tended goal, and he made sure that he was the wall, as he always is, and that pretty much sealed the deal. They had, if Marshall kicked out, they would win. So that's exactly what happened. They won 5-3 on penalty kicks.
Yep. This is most definitely a thing. So Around the Herd be damned. We're moving on to the Sweet 16. I was checking the NCAA soccer Twitter timeline while you were talking there, and University of Kentucky also moved on. So that means, hey, the Sun Belt Conference has 2 of the final 16 teams still kicking in this in this tournament, which just slams home the fact that Sun Belt soccer is a for real monster. But I don't care about the Cats right now, man. We're talking about the Herd. Big win over UVA. I was watching that game. And it was, again, I can't watch soccer through a soccer player's eyes, but I was still having, a great time watching. I still find myself on the edge of my seat, even though I really don't know what I'm looking at. And I'm not shy about saying that, but it's still cool because, the Herd went down, and I thought, oh, man, I know these games you can go freaking 90 minutes without scoring a goal. And when you go down 1-0, you're thinking, I hope it doesn't end here. And, Matthew Bell made sure that it didn't end there. And then the penalty kicks was just really like nail biting, edge of your seats type stuff. And our guys went up there on a mission, and who better to close it out than Sun Belt Conference Player of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year,
Milo
Yosef to send the Herd to the Sweet 16, where they will face a rematch from a few years ago in the Indiana Hoosiers, one of the power players of NCAA soccer for a long time. So I had to send the good-natured tweet out to our buddies over at Home Field Apparel and, let them know I hope they were ready, because, here we are locking horns once again in a postseason battle. But, man, this Herd soccer team is something to watch, man. You got to love them.
Yeah, and I'm looking here on the website right now. They don't have a time and date listed yet that I see for this. We will 100% be putting that out.
I thought I saw it. Let me look. No, I saw it earlier.
Okay.
Let me see. Let me see if I can find it. Folks, hang in there. Marshall at Indiana men's soccer match announced to be Sunday, November 27th at 6 6:30 p.m. I can't speak to that as accurate, but that's the only thing I've seen so far that had a date and time.
And if that's not accurate, that will be the only mistake we ever make on this show.
Ever.
All right. Well, that wraps up our 5 things. Again, we normally talk about results for athletics on Around the Herd. We're not doing that at the end of this show, but still, that's such a huge deal. We're moving on that probably would have made our 5 things even if we did have it Around the Herd.
Yeah, if we continue to move on, it's going to find its way into whatever episode is next. It doesn't matter because, after that early exit from the Sun Belt Conference tournament, things just could have went south and soured, and this proves that this team is a player, and they're here to accomplish something big. And being one of the final 16 teams standing is already pretty freaking sweet. That's why it's the Sweet 16, and we ain't done yet. By golly, let's keep on rolling.
That's right.
So kick ass 5 things. Some of you folks check in on some of these new NIL opportunities, see if they match your business vision and that sort of thing, but at least look at them. Some of them are pretty cool. We will continue. We have been talking, Russ and I have been talking about trying to get a more detailed look at the Thunder Trust, and that's something that we're working on. So we'll get more news to you about the Thunder Trust. We didn't want to just breeze past that, like, oh yeah, we got that too. That's kind of a bigger segment that we're working on. So we'll have more about that in the near future. But look, right now, we got to talk about this game that went down in Statesboro last night. Georgia Southern and the Herd, 23-10. Marshall wins pretty convincingly, even though it's a 13-point win. It was a convincing win. Marshall really in control from opening whistle to the final whistle, bringing the Herd to 7-4 on the season, 4-3 in the Sun Belt Conference. Here's your bullet points for this one, Russ. Number 1, bowl game guaranteed. Check it, stamp it. It's going to happen. Second bullet point, 3rd place in the Sun Belt East Division all alone. 3 games ago, we were in the cellar. First 3-game win streak of 2022. I don't care how you slice that one, what this season has been from beginning to end. That's a big deal. And of course, last but very, 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 very not least, 22 was on the field, ladies and gentlemen. Rasheen Ali took snaps, made runs, made cuts. 22 was on the field last night, and it was a work of art, honestly. 8 yards on the first carry. He touched the ball in 2022. We got visions of a Cam Fancher / Rasheen Ali / Kalen Laburn combination in the backfield, and boy, oh boy, if that's something that is going to be more well-oiled in the finale, yowza, this could be really, really fun to watch.
And the bowl game.
Yes, and the bowl game. Yes.
Because we've got 6 days to prepare for the final home game, but then you've got
maybe 2 weeks.
15 practices is what you're allowed, so we might see some really cool things in the bowl game.
It sure could, man. So look, this is where I normally kick it to you and just get your overall synopsis of the game before we dive through these stats and then expand during the grading. So good win for the Herd. Let's just start there. So what did you like about this one real quick before we get into some stats, and then we'll expand there when we get to the grades?
I like just about everything. We're going to be talking about all this, but a very quick start for us with the pass to a wide open EJ Horton, and it just seemed like there was never any loss of control from that point forward. It was early, and then how we finished late. Again, we're going to talk about all that, but It was just great. It's been a great week and a half of Marshall athletics, from the couple of days before the last Saturday's game, Thursday and Friday, when the volleyball team beat Arkansas State at home back to back. We've really just had their loss in the second round to South Alabama. Every single other Herd thing has been pretty much a hit. And it was just part of a great day yesterday. So let's just talk about, I don't want to spoil anything, but let's just talk about everything that happened.
Yeah, the four major indicators, all big time in favor of the herd. I'm feeling comfortable saying, before I even get into this stuff, this is at least the second game in a row where I felt Marshall has played a better game than the week before, as far as a complete ball game. You know what I mean? At least from an offensive standpoint. There were some things that made me kind of tilt my head sideways on the defense side. Like all of a sudden, like this passing Georgia Southern team's running the ball like crazy, and we're not stopping that run, but who cares? We still won. It was just wild to see that. So let's talk about these indicators. Total yards for the herd, 529 versus 384 for Georgia Southern. Time of possession, I told you, Russ, this one might be one where the herd goes plus 10, and man, they went almost plus 14. 36-54 for the herd, 23-06 for Georgia Southern. First downs favor the herd in a big way. 29 first downs for Marshall, 20 for Georgia Southern. And turnovers, 2. The herd get 2 and turn the ball over a grand total of 0 times. Anytime you do that, sweep those indicators in that convincing of a fashion, you're probably going to win the game. Cam Fancher, what can you say about Cam? Continues to develop and look better and better each week. 17 of 32 for 274 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 14 carries on the ground for 63 yards, and another touchdown on the ground. My man just went in and outplayed Kyle Vantrease, one of the top passers in the NCAA this year. Rasheen Ali, 16 carries for 79 yards on the day. Kalen Laburn, 17 carries for 70 yards on the day. E.J. Horton, 2 catches for 76 yards and a touchdown. You mentioned the big 65-yarder to open up the game. And Shadid Ahmed, 3 catches for 45 yards and a touchdown, with a long of 33 on his touchdown reception. All in all, this herd, what a balanced attack. 255 total rush yards versus 274 total pass yards. Man, they could not, Georgia Southern did not have an answer for this herd offense. 10 of 19 on third down on the day for the herd. And again, for the second straight week, an opening drive touchdown. Penalties, 6 for 63 yards. This is where it gets a little crappy, a little bit. We did have a touchdown called back because of a penalty and a big time third down conversion that was wiped out, which then resulted in a punt. So those two things, that kind of sucked. But other than that, it was pretty good. And the herd stamps this one away, closing the game out basically with a 18-play, 10-minute, 38-second drive that ultimately ended up in a turnover on downs, but it didn't matter. They squirreled the clock away and put this game out of reach. Defensively, Eli Neal has the big day, 11 total tackles, 5 of those solo, 2 quarterback hurries, and a big INT on Kyle Vantrease. Kerryon Martin, 8 tackles, 5 solo, and a tackle for loss. Owen Porter, 7 tackles, 3 of those solo, 1 tackle for loss, and a sack. Impact plays, Eli Neal's INT, Porter's sack, and add another sack by Abraham Beauplan, and just for good measure, get a fumble recovery by Damian Barber. This was a herd defense that held one of the top passers in the country, Kyle Vantrease, to 205 yards through the air. They came in averaging 334 passing yards per game and forced that elusive interception from Vantrease. 2 sacks on the day, which was another point of emphasis for us. We had said coming in, they had 5, only 5 allowed on the year. Only 4 of those were on Vantrease, and the herd got 2. Scoreless second half by this herd defense. They hold Georgia Southern 2 of 11 on third down, including an 0 out of 9 start. All great things. The only thing that pops up is how in the hell did we give up 150 some rushing yards where our season average was obliterated in the first quarter, but ultimately doesn't matter because they couldn't do enough to get enough going to make any waves anywhere. Reese Verhoff, special teams wise, 1 of 1 on field goal, knocks it in from 36 yards out, 2 of 3 on extra points. He misses the first one of the day. John McConnell, 6 punts for a 39-yard average, lands 4 inside the 20, including 1 at the 4 and 1 at the 3. Russ, this was an all-around pretty great game for the herd. Let's revisit your keys to victory, shall we?
We shall. And they are good ones to revisit. Number one, I said run wild. We did that. Yeah. So let's just talk about, even though you already have a little bit, how wild we did run. We have Rasheen Ali 16 for 79, Laburn 17 for 70, Fancher 14 for 63. Those alone are, let's see, 16, 33, 47 carries. And we had 149. What is that? 212?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's 212. Yeah, so 212 yards between our quarterback and our two running backs that are now a big two-headed monster in there. And then, oh, by the way, Ethan Payne, 5 rushes for 28 yards. AJ Turner, only 1 rush, but he got 9 yards. And even on a wide receiver run, Charles Montgomery got 6. He was back in the backfield for there. I guess he would count as I don't know if that counts as a running back or a wide receiver. Who cares? We had 255 yards, 4.7 average in the long. It wasn't like we were doing that on 70-yard runs and that just ran everything up. The long was a 19-yard run by Fancher. So we ran wild on them. I'm going to count that as a resounding yes.
Yeah, I guess you could get a little pissy and say, well, we didn't have anybody go over 100, but it didn't matter. It didn't matter. The chains kept moving. I mean, we came in and famously, I was like, this might be a game where Laburn goes for 200. We had no idea Rasheen Ali was going to play at that point. Yep. Also, I said, well, this might be a game where crazy things happen and we have 3 guys get 100 yards. It could happen. Well, it didn't. So what? But we still rushed for 255 freaking yards. Yeah. I think we did our job.
My next key was to win third down. Oh, yeah, we did that. 10 out of 19 on our side. That's a little over 52%, rounded up to 53. And on their side, you mentioned they were 2 of 11. And
didn't get one till did not get one till the fourth quarter.
Yeah. So that is 18% for them. We definitely did that. We had talked about that being strength versus strength because they were 12th in the nation at converting almost 50% of the time, and they were 0 for their first 9, 2 out of 10, 18%. A resounding yes on that one. Third was get to Van Treese. We got 2 sacks on him. They had 5 coming into this, and it's a bad trend if I'm looking at theirs because that's 2 weeks in a row now that they've had 2 against them. But who cares? We said that would have to happen, and it did. And we also nearly got him 5 other times. We had 5 QB hurries to tack onto there, and a couple of them, I'm not sure how he got out of the end zone. He did, or not the end zone, out of the backfield from getting a sack. He did, and we still gave him nothing the whole game. And that's just a good thing from our defensive line, our linebackers, and our defensive backs. I mean, nothing was open. That gave us the time to go. We had a great pressure against them all game long. I kept wondering if we were ever going to get it, but we did. And then afterwards, not too long, we got our second one. So big resounding yes on that. All 3 of my keys to victory.
I was, of course, also all in on the run for my number 1. And yeah, we already checked that box. Number 2, I said we had to play sound pass defense. And I think we did that, holding one of the most lethal passing attacks in the country to a little above half of their normal per game output. So give it a big check mark there. Fast start. Yep. Second game in a row. You go down, get a touchdown basically immediately. And number 4, I said we had to grind. And I told you could define that however you wanted. I don't think you have to define it any more than an 18-play, 10.5-minute drive to seal away that game in the fourth quarter when they thought, all right, we're down by 13. We got a shot here. Nope. Marshall just ground that game away.
Hell of a grind. Yeah.
And so the only other thing I'll say is I want to put a little bit of context to your get to Van Treese point, right? Because we think of that most of the time as get sacks, get hurries, get him off the spot. And I do that too. But I'd also like to point out that, yes, he accounted for an interception, which we mentioned, but he also fumbled the ball once. So he accounted for both of those turnovers. The herd was swarming Vantrease all night long. So it was great to get a little revenge on him from that bowl game from a couple of years ago. They never let him get into a groove. He started to get into a little one there late in the game, but at that point, it was too little too late. So I think for the first time this season, both of us swept all of our keys to victory in this. That was great. Let's move to grades.
All right.
Quarterback. What do you got for Cam this week?
A+, man. A+. We talked about it a little bit on the post-game spaces that we did. By the way, anyone that's listening, we usually try to get there within around a half hour or so after the game's over. If you ever want to do it like it's a call-in show, but it's just a bunch of fans talking, feel free to call in and talk to us. But anyway, his maturation has just been crazy good. It's it's an accelerated pace, and I think that you agree with me. Had we had a faster start to the and not as bad of a start with that option offense that Coastal Carolina had, we'd be staring at a 5-0 since Cam Fancher took over. I just loved everything about the touch on his passes that he had last night. I loved his wheels, obviously. I loved more than anything his confidence, which just seems to be growing and growing and growing. I've always said, man, confidence and experience. And let's remind everybody one more time, he's a redshirt freshman, and this is his 5th game because he came in every single game we've had this year, but not to do this. You know, he came in to be a red zone, zone read option guy, or he came in other games just to come in and run a little bit. He has not come in to do what he's been doing here. He led us down the field. He has led us on some great drives in these past 2 games. A+ all around.
Yeah, it's getting to the point now to where you just start to expect those routine plays to be routine, you know, whereas before you were kind of just like, all right, are we going to hit this? Or are we not going to hit this? And it's now you just expect some of those plays that you're so used to seeing be successful. They're successful. And that's great. And I remember saying in the spaces last night, that game was so tight, you know, even though, you know, Marshall was basically in control, the scoring margin was not that big for a long time. So I thought, okay, you know, Cam's has been good for throwing one up. So I'm expecting that that'll happen at some point, and it never happened.
That's right.
It never happened. So this is the 2nd game in a row. He's looked really, really good. The game is starting to get more and more polished. 2nd game in a row, he's only been sacked 1 time. So now it's 1-1-0 in the last 3, a definite turnaround from what we were seeing early on in the season. His ability to scramble just, it changes the game for this herd offense. It's not that it's game changing in the fact that that's what we have to rely on. It's just one more element that weakens a defense. And it's really great that he's turned into a true dual threat quarterback now with a more polished pass game and the ability to just take off.
So just to wrap up this segment on why it's an A+, he accounted for 337 yards in all 3 of our touchdowns.
Yep, sure did. What more can you ask from a guy, right?
8 touchdowns.
If you come into a game and say, hey, if my quarterback gets me, you know, 225 yards, 2 touchdowns, 50 yards on the ground and another touchdown, you'll take that in every freaking game, and no turnovers. You'll take it in every game, everyone.
Yeah.
So what about this offense this week?
You know, I'm going to go with an A-, and penalties again are our only major drawback. We took back a touchdown, and you mentioned that pass to Gamage, which was a first down, put us in the red zone on the 14. So we were looking at 1st and 10 from the 14, going down to hopefully get our 2nd score of the game, and had a penalty on Sartor, and then later we had a penalty on Driscoll that called back that touchdown to Ahmed. And that's only hiccups. What can you say about putting up 529 yards? What can you say about having 0 turnovers, only allowing 1 sack, being up by 13 points and going on an 18 play over 10.5 minute drive to ice the game.
Yeah.
What can you say besides, man, let's clip these penalties. We've been talking about it, they're going to happen. Nobody's sitting here going to say we're going to play penalty free football. According to that announcer, we hold on every play. So,
yeah, he was holding calls just for the hell of it, I guess.
Yeah. So, joking aside, that was our minor hiccup, but in some of these games, we might not be able to afford having a first down called back and a touchdown called back. Yeah. This one we were.
Definitely not touchdowns called back. I mean, I can deal with having a first down wiped out and having to punt. I mean, I can deal with that, but this is not the first time that we've had a touchdown wiped off of the board because of a penalty. And man, it's just it sucks. It just sucks. And I get it. Those guys, nobody feels as bad as they do.
For 100%. Yeah.
But it still sucks. It sucks. But this offense was really great tonight or last night. For all the folks that hang on every play, if it doesn't get a first down, every play, and you're like, oh, here we go again, man, like take the broad strokes view and just look back. Like you were saying, here we go again, 2 plays into the game, and we finish with over 500 yards of offense. And this young quarterback just continues to get better and better and better. I mean, I don't know what, if this kind of stuff doesn't please you, then you're just unpleasable.
One other thing that I want to say, because I mentioned them by name, that they got these penalties in Sartor and Driscoll. They were also a major part of why we were an A- and not like a C or a B, because they helped us get those 529 yards. They helped protect Cam. So I'm not beating up on anybody. I use their name because that's a fact of what happened. The same as I would say Ahmed was the guy that caught the touchdown and it got wiped out. It has nothing to do with calling anyone out. We're not about that.
No, it just is. That's what it was. It was, they know who they are. They know what they did.
And you mentioned it, man. They are beating themselves up way more than the fans ever will. And I just wished all the fans would understand that these guys are going out there and busting their asses for us and for the alma mater that we love so much.
Yeah. I am just now at the point where I'm just appreciating, kind of what we see every week. It seems to be a little bit something new to the game, a little bit something added. And I mean, how do you not get pumped up about a return of Rasheen Ali, which we've been waiting on all season long? I mean, what a different animal this run game could potentially be.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, we even saw the debut. If it wasn't the debut, it was definitely the first reception of the season for young Brian Robinson from the receiving corps.
It 100% was. I think that might have been his first game even. But he caught one for 15. I think he was targeted twice, maybe. One was out of his reach. Also saw, and this is not on the offense, but speaking of people being in, saw Jacoby Henderson in there, and I think that might have been his, unless he's been on some special teams that I've missed. I saw him in there on the field, and I made note of that as well.
Yeah, so several guys either getting their first action or getting some beginnings of some more regular action. But still, here we are. It's just the past couple games of the year. You get this one, you get a next one, you get a bowl game, so you still potentially staring down the barrel of saving that red shirt. This is a great time if you can get them in now and get some of those reps. This is good stuff. What do you got for this defense this week?
A+. I'm not going to beat them up over the runs that they gave up. It would be easy to do so, but I just want to say that they held this 34 point a game offense to only 10 points. Nothing in the entire second half. And I mean, they were just dominant like they always have been. Yeah, they gave up some rushing yards. They bent. They didn't break. They gave up one measly touchdown. I can't say enough about this defense. So, fellas, You're not getting an A-. You're not getting just an A. You're getting an A+. Who cares if Jalen White had some big runs? He had a couple of runs that ran up the yardage total there. Had a couple of missed tackles to allow that to happen. But you know what? Screw it. A+.
Yeah. All I know is I got to see a really smothering performance, a quarterback that was under duress most of the night. They created 2 turnovers off of that dude, and the 6-shooter got busted out. That's
he did.
I mean, what else do you want in a game? I mean, geez. Special teams, what do you got?
I'm gonna go with a B. Can't miss the extra point, just the same way you can't have can't have, well, no, B+. But you can't have the holding penalties on the offense. You can't have missed extra point. We did not miss the field goal. We had some really good punts, 4 inside the 20. You mentioned 1 at the 4, 1 at the 3. No mistakes, but sometimes you can't miss the extra point because it could be that 1 point that you need.
Yeah, and with a team that's not built right now to score in those 40s, Marshall has yet to eclipse 30 in an FBS game. So, you know what I'm saying? You need everyone you got an opportunity to get. So even though it wasn't a huge deal in this one, and Reese knows, it's not like he's like, I'm gonna miss this one for the hell of it. We'll make this game more interesting. We get it. It's cool. Yeah. But yeah, it's an overall good grade. I see now that this one thing I will mention about the special team thing, it really looks like the punt return is an influx situation. Stephen Gilmore back receiving punts this week. Last week it was McMillan. Now that Keaton has been injured and will not be taking punts for the remainder of the season, it'll be interesting to see who does that. Andre Sam had done it a couple of times and he's kind of dinged up too. So if Gilmore's the guy going forward, I'm kind of cool with that. I think he did
really well.
Enough. Yeah. He had himself an 11-yard return. So it's just something to keep an eye on, I guess, who will be back there next. But overall, pretty good grade. What do you got for these coaches?
A+, man. They had a game plan, and wow, 10 and a half minutes at the end of the game. I mean, no one goes in there and goes, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put an 11-minute drive for the rest of this game. Run the 11-minute drive plays. Yeah. It's up to the players to execute. But they had a game plan. They took it to this high-powered air raid offense. You kept saying, if they're not air raid, they're
right there.
They're right there. Well, the Homer announcers that they had kept saying air raid. So I'm going to say air raid. We took this air raid offense and we had a game plan. We disrupted them on everything. They were coming in, getting near 50% of the time, 3rd down conversions. And we had the team ready to go. I loved how they did not leak out that Ali was back. We never claimed to be insiders. Obviously, if we were insiders, we would be on here saying, well, we broke it earlier this week that Rasheen Ali was out. We're not pretending that we knew. I knew the morning of the game that he was on the plane from the day before, and that was like, I don't know, 17 hours or so after that plane ride. And it was just kept a very good secret. And I didn't think that it 100% meant that he was going to be playing. He just was traveling with the team. And I thought, well, man, that's great. Love to see him. They did everything right. They had the team prepared. They kept Ali a secret. They came out. They just took it to this Georgia Southern team, and they didn't turn off anything. In my opinion, they did exactly what they needed. I didn't need another touchdown there, to ice this game. I thought it was even better and, much more demoralizing than putting another spot on the board was going for a 10.5-minute drive at the end of the game. Just say, yeah, we can do that.
So. I mean, yeah, it would have been great to have that capped off with a touchdown, but it gets a 4th and 3 play or a 4th and 2 play, and they're like, you know what? We're up by 13.
Yeah.
Like something's really going to have to go really, really wrong for us to lose this game.
Yeah.
In this short amount of time. I was vastly impressed by that 18 play drive. I can't remember seeing that in a long, long time, especially to the tune of 10 and a half minutes. I mean, you basically just ice the quarter away. You're like, yeah, we got this. This one's a wrap. No, you're right. They had a game plan that executed that game plan. I said going in that there was probably a little bit of motivation by Lance Guidry to prove that he is one of the finest coordinators in the Sun Belt Conference. And we mentioned that Georgia Southern offensive coordinator Brian Ellis made that Broyles Award semifinalist list, and Guidry was not included. And we see in this game who, was the better coordinator. Nothing against Brian Ellis, but we had our guys charged up and totally basically neutralized that passing attack that had lit a lot of people up all season long. So
100%.
A lot of shine going on Lance Guidry and those guys. And one more note about you saying, we didn't say anything about Ali playing. I would rather not say that stuff and have it happen and be able to enjoy it rather than say, oh, this is going to happen and then be wrong. Because that's just like, what are we doing here? We're not headline grabbers. We're not, you know what I mean? This is I think it's amazing in the social media age that didn't leak out 3 days ago.
That's right. Yeah.
Pretty amazing. But what do you got for the fans in this one?
A to A plus. I've seen a couple of knuckleheads, saying things like, well, it's about time or something. Yeah, shut up. At me if you want to. It's only one S, at RUSLIVINGOOD. Come at me. But all around, man, everybody was just like, one, pumped that Ali was back.
Yep.
Two, pumped that Fancher has taken that next step. Everyone was just pumped that we're getting a bowl. 3 wins in a row, turned the season around. I didn't think not me, but this is their quotes. I didn't think that was possible, 3 games ago, 4 games ago, all this different stuff. So it was just great to see that some of the people have come off that ledge that they had been put on, because we had a couple of bad luck losses and underperformance leading to loss, that some people had abandoned ship. And I haven't heard from some of those people in a while. And I've also seen some people that had abandoned ship come back on and say, hey, we're great again, so A plus to A, somewhere in that range.
Couple of notes. Some folks were saying from Georgia Southern how they had interacted with some Herd fans that made the trip and how great they were. Shocker. How great Herd fans are. How nice and hospitable they are. Shocker. It's kind of just what we do. Secondly, you talk to one of these guys every week, and I wasn't on a ledge and I hadn't abandoned ship, but I just was having a hard time visualizing where all the wins were going to come from. And it wasn't because we necessarily had some hard luck losses. It was we had a complete question mark at quarterback, right? We didn't know what Cam was going to be. It just so happens that he's the positive side of that coin and has just gotten better and better and better every week, and has really honestly led us to victories, both through the air and on the ground, and is, helped along by a stellar defense. Mm-hmm. So the justification, I believe, was okay. I mean, I wasn't wrong, but I was wrong about what this team would turn into in a month. I'll say that, because they are much better than I thought they were going to be. Some of these teams, like you used the term against Louisiana, going into that game, paper tiger. Maybe some of these teams are that. We thought they were better also than they actually are. Marshall's just a better team than App State right now. Marshall's a better team than Georgia Southern right now. So, it's a little bit of both. And I'm happy to be wrong. I've said that many, many times about a lot of stuff. I am thrilled to be wrong. I'm thrilled to be sitting here at 7-4, with the potential to be 9-4 and bringing, right back on the table a 9-win season that we both predicted, way back before we even entered into week 1. I mean, I just did not think that was going to be a possibility.
To clarify on that, though, because I'm all about being factual, I had it and you had them at 9-3, which is still impossible. You know, we were talking about 9-3 plus going to a bowl.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying, and I agree with what you're saying. And I also, after last week's win, I said we were much more likely to finish 8-4 than we would 6-6. That I had us either at 8-4 or 7-5, and we're not guaranteed to finish 8-4, and not guaranteed to win a bowl, of course, to go 9-4. But with Ali being back, and with what we've seen out of this defense, and what we have seen out of our offense now, with being able to throw downfield and these other routes, and having the wheels to extend plays and things like that, God help whatever team we draw for a bowl. That's all I'll say.
Well, let's breeze through these last three here. Who's your offensive MVP for the week?
Man, is it got to go with Cam Fancher, man. I mean, what? Who else? I mean, yeah, Ali came back and he showed us, you know, some glimpses of that burst and that drive and everything. But it's Fancher, you know, 274 through the air, 63 on the ground, all 3 touchdowns. Cam Fancher.
And no turnovers. Yeah, you darn right it's Cam. Defensive MVP, who's the man?
Eli Neal.
Nice.
He had 11 tackles. I can't remember how many solo.
5, I think.
Yeah, he had that interception, and just an all around, all over the field kind of day for him, amongst a bunch of people that had, you know, they just, as a collective, you know, we used collective when we were talking about NIL and things like that. Now we're talking about this defensive unit as a collective. Week in, week out, they can be defensive player of the game as a unit because of how they complement each other. But Eli Neal stood out in this one to get player of the game for me.
And let's not get lost on the fact that we are down guys on this defense. Yeah. Isaiah Norman has been out for several weeks. Sam has been dinged up. So that's the entire starting safeties not contributing currently, you know, and still these guys are like, no big deal. Now think about a scenario where you get those guys back, where this defense is just an animal. I mean, they are a machine. They just don't have a seeming weakness that that a team can sustain against them.
To piggyback, let's not forget that only these last 2 games, Daytwan Smith has been able to play because he's been out most of the year. And we missed maybe the first 5 games of Tyquez Legs.
Yeah.
And he's just been a force since he's been in. So, this is a crazy good defense. Don't know what else they could do that would shock me, but they're going to do something next week that'll shock me.
Yeah, it'll be like a 3 defensive touchdown performance next week or something like that.
They'll hold the team to negative 80 yards or something
to make up for this week. Like, wait a minute. Yeah. We don't know what happened. Who's your special teams guy this week?
McConnell, 4 punts out of his 6. 4 of them were inside the 20. I can't recall if the other ones were from areas that had a chance to be inside the 20. Just cannot recall offhand. I'm not going to go back and try to look at it real quick. But anytime you're getting 4 inside the 20, 1 on the 3, 1 on the 4, on a defense like we're just talking about here, I mean, you're basically setting up not only a good effort from your defense, but it's likely that you're setting up your offense to go in and score.
Yep, you're setting them up on a short field, and if nothing else, you're setting up just to eat some clock away. I mean, he's a great weapon to have alongside this defense. Final thoughts on the day before we close this one out.
Well, I predicted 34-21. It was a 13-point victory. Something must have been up with my crystal ball. We won by 13, but I was just a little bit off on the scores. I did see us coming in there and putting up a great defensive effort. Things changed a little bit for me with that news that, if you recall, we were talking about why the line shifted, and I just happened across. I don't know why we had not seen that their wide receiver was out. it had not been talked about by anyone. And that was kind of big, but man, they could have put Jerry Rice in there, and I don't think they would have been able to overcome this defense. So great victory. We're going to build on it, and we're going to take the next Georgia team down next.
Yeah, the only thing I really got to say is I'd say the line moved a little bit because somebody somewhere realized that Rasheen Ali was coming back and Burgess was going to be out. So that's two major swings in opposite directions that would sway the point total in this game, and it did. And let's not forget, a touchdown was taken off the board. So you were still pretty right in your thought process. Moving forward, it's senior day for the Herd. We'll see how many of those guys make the march out for senior day ceremonies against Georgia State. And we are staring down the barrel of that Ali, Cam, Laburn backfield that we've all been longing for, and we might see it in full show against the Georgia State Panthers. How must they feel thinking, all right, we've already got to go against this Kalen Laburn guy who's lighting up the country. Now this Cam Fancher guy who's coming on like gangbusters the last 6 weeks. We're beat up a little bit just from the regular normal rigors of the season. It's the final game of the year. Everybody's playing hurt. Oh, and now we get to face an All-American that's got 17 carries on the year with the freshest of fresh legs. Do not envy those guys, but that's why that's why I wear Kelly Green. Also noted, we'll talk about this in the preview here in a couple of days, but I got to say it now because it's right here in front of us and I need people to know about it. With a Herd win and a James Madison loss to Coastal Carolina, Marshall's in sole possession of second place in the Sun Belt Conference East Division. And if you would have said that 5 games ago, when we were in the bottom of the division to climb all the way up to second place, that's amazing. That'll be an amazing finish. Now, yeah, we'll finish in a technical tie record-wise with James Madison, but we beat him, so we own the tiebreaker. So that position is all ours. If they lose to Coastal Carolina, the Grayson McCall-less Coastal Carolina, and the Herd beats Georgia State. So still, any way you slice it, that is going to be an awesome, awesome climb to close out the season. Russ, any final words whatsoever on this episode? If not, you can take us out of here.
I'm just going to, one more time, for the benefit of everyone on video, check out the Herd Nation Park. You can find that at part of this completebreakfast.threadless.com. For those of you on audio, you can't see the shirt. We'll put out a photo of it and a link to that on Twitter and Facebook. That way you can click on there and go check out all the things they have for Marshall. Now, as usual, whether you see us at the Joan, whether you see us at the Cam, whether you see us fanboying out because Rasheen Ali is back, baby, no matter where you see us, we're going to be saying, go Herd.
Go Herd. It's the ThunderCast. We'll see you in a couple days to get you right before that Georgia State game. In case you're traveling out of town, you need something cool to listen to. It's the ThunderCast. Later.